you were okay, but if you were escaping some of these other very, very difficult situations, you were not going to qualify as a refugee at this point. So Congress, recognizing by 1980 that incoherence was not a great refugee policy, set about to create. Yeah, you have a question? Nicaraguans were not encouraged to come. Typically, Nicaraguans in this period were always refused visitors' visas. But if they got here, they were typically granted asylum. Right. Because Nicaragua wasn't under communist control. So they're pretty consistent about it. If it was a communist country, you're welcome. If not, not so much, especially during Reagan's years. Now, that was after the 1980 Act, which brings a good point, because as we'll see, the 1980 Act finally takes away that you got to be communist, you got to be running from communists in order to be a refugee. But the U.S. still manages to behave that way because of a special clause we'll talk about in a minute. So in 1980, Congress finally passes a refugee act in response to the chaos that had reigned, or was reigning. And it specified a total of 50,000, which is certainly larger, but still, unfortunately, still an arbitrary number. You can't make the world produce exactly 50,000 refugees a year. And they took that total out of the Hart-Sellers totals. And there were going to be more admissions were possible with the consultation of Congress. So this was the idea that the president would still consult Congress, but it would be sort of a regularized procedure instead of the president simply doing it with his McCarran-Walter authority and then telling Congress to make it okay. Very significantly, the UN definition of refugee was used. So there's no reference to communism in here. It's simply a person who is outside any country of his nationality and is unable or unwilling to return because of a well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion. Okay? But there was added to this, preference would be given to persons of special humanitarian concern to the United States. And somehow, as they were talking in the Nicaraguan case, for example, that's going to be read as special preference given to persons fleeing communist countries. The 1980 Act also included a federal refugee resettlement program, and then stipulated a 2-year wait before a refugee could apply for permanent residence status, regularized, and become permanent resident, first step on the way to citizenship. As refugee laws go, this is particularly generous in one respect. Most countries that do accept refugees don't put them on a track to citizenship. So the U.S. is nice in that regard. The resettlement program is kind of a nice touch too. The limit to 50,000, I don't know if that's a big number or a small number. It depends on how many are trying to get in. The law also recognized asylees. The difference between a refugee and an asylee is that a refugee is still in a third country or second country. They're not in their country of national origin, but they're not in the U.S. either. An asylee is somebody who's in the U.S. And that's why that's particularly interesting in this case, because the Central American refugees are generally asylees. They generally manage to make it to the United States. Okay. All right. So same graph, different lines and arrows. Once again, didn't work. Hart-Celler set the limit for refugees here, the light blue line, 1980 Act set it here, which doesn't look bad as an average for the previous years. Right? If you draw the red line back, at least if you're standing in 1980, looking backwards, you can sort of defend that 50,000 number. And there's a provision for Congress to increase that if the president asks. But within weeks, the Mariel boat lift begins. And along with the Mariel boat lift comes a Haitian exodus and another wave of Indo-Chinese escaping further repression in Vietnam. So the refugee numbers spike now to around 350,000. And once again, poor Jimmy Carter is caught in the middle of it. So as I said, within days of signing the 1980 Refugee Act, it all falls apart because within 162 days, about 125,000 Cubans leave. This is a complicated story. About 10,000 dissident Cubans occupied a Peruvian embassy in Havana, and complicated negotiations followed whether these people would be allowed to leave, and how they would be allowed to leave. The negotiations finally broke down, and Castro just declared that anybody who wanted to could leave through the port of Mariel, and he took that opportunity also to empty some jails and asylums as well. So about 125,000 left, and these people were not very much welcomed by the Cuban American community, possibly because some were known to have come from jails and asylum. Possibly that 40% of them were black was also part of the explanation. But these were not the earlier waves, as I believe Suro does talk about this too. The earlier Cuban American refugees are much more of the middle and upper class. They're the ones who were escaping communism earlier in the late 50s and early 60s. This is already 1980. So to staunch anti-communists, these people are suspicious. Why didn't they get out sooner? And so on. And they're also poor. They're there are fewer entrepreneurs among them. Nonetheless, hopefully we'll have some time to talk about it, but it does provide a nice natural experiment with the question of economic impact of immigrants. As unexcited as the Cuban community was about the Mariel boat, they were even less excited about the Haitian exodus. And while all this was happening, Carter was really caught between a desire to help for humanitarian and political reasons and also a desire for an orderly immigration policy reflecting the act that he had just signed. He wound up vacillating for a while and finally labeling many of the refugees, what were they called? Haitians were called Cuban and Haitian entrance status pending, which of course means nothing. Many of them were in fact confined for months while this action was taken. Eventually the Cubans were all admitted. It took until 1986, a special provision of the 1986 Act, to admit the Haitian exodus from this period. When Reagan took power, Reagan was elected, became president in 1981. He undid some of Carter's policies and he made a deal with the Duvalier regime in Haiti to apprehend Haitians. And after that, they stopped coming. About 21,000 were apprehended by U.S. ships in international waters, and of those 21,006 were permitted to file asylum requests. So you can draw our own conclusions there. Meanwhile, virtually all the Cubans were granted asylum right away. So once again, it's the same story. I mean, it could be that the Haitians speak French and the Cubans speak Spanish. It could also be that Haitians are much more likely to be black But a lot of it does have to do with communism. Cuba being a communist country, it was still Cold War mentality, even as late as the 1980s. Okay, I think we did talk about that. I guess to sum that up, did refugee policy work? Did the 1980 Act work? Not really. It did provide a new framework for refugees and asylees, so some people were able to take advantage of this process of gaining refugee status, coming to the United States, waiting 2 years, becoming a legal permanent resident. But clearly it wasn't. It was overwhelmed by events. Kennedy, who was one of the sponsors of the act, blamed Carter for that. He said it could have been made to work, but Carter clearly didn't agree. So after 1980, with refugee issue under control, sort of, Congress turned then to the problem of undocumented migrants. I think we mentioned these numbers before. Uptick in apprehensions, aliens apprehended and deported at the Hart-Celler Act in 1976 when the limit is imposed. But just to get another sense of how much bigger an issue it was, in the 1960s there was about 1.6 million apprehensions, and in the 1970s it had risen to 11 million, almost 12 million. So it was much more visible of an issue, and one that the public was much more exercised about. A lot of the pressure, interestingly, came at this point for doing something about the undocumented immigrant problem. A lot of the pressure came for passing an employer sanctions law, right? Penalize employers for employing undocumented migrants. A lot of the pressure for that came from Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers Union, interestingly. For Chavez this time, undocumented migrants seemed a lot like strikebreakers. So I think somewhat surprisingly, his organization was very keen on cracking down. LULAC was another organization that was very interested in it. LULAC is the League of United Latin American Citizens. It was at that time a very conservative nationalist organization, which was only open to American citizens. So remember the Japanese American Citizens League, sort of similar concept. These were American citizens of Latin American descent. They were very interested in distinguishing American citizens from these undocumented migrants. They thought that it would be very much in their interest to get rid of them. They sought distance, from the Mexican Americans, from the Mexican American community. So in 1972, then Peter Rodino, at the behest of these organizations, sponsored a bill to impose sanctions on employers. And so what's interesting is in 1972, this is a liberal solution. The liberal United Farm Workers Union, for example, and Peter Rodino are trying to solve this problem by cracking down on undocumented immigrants through employer sanctions. That was resisted by people who were conservative, such as James Eastland of Mississippi. They didn't want any kind of employer sanctions because they frankly liked undocumented immigrants the way they were. So I think it's interesting to recognize that back in 1972, sides were kind of reversed. Today, we would expect conservatives to be much more interested in applying employer sanctions and cracking down on this problem, whereas people who would call themselves liberals would be much more concerned about the effects of racial profiling and so on. And indeed, by the time employer sanctions actually happens in 1986, a lot of these organizations do change sides. I think we have time to just touch on the main outlines of this important act, the 1986 Simpson-Rodino. Is it Rodino? I'm going to find out if it's Rodino or Mazzoli. But Simpson is right. Is it Mazzoli? Okay. So it's Simpson, and that's Alan Simpson. I think it started out as the Rodino Act, and they put Mazzoli's name on it later. I've seen it referred to both ways at various points in time while it's being discussed. Anyway, what they proposed was this three-legged stool. And you can almost see, if you remember Alan Simpson, he retired from the Senate a while ago. This is very, very much the kind of thing he would talk about, very, very folksy kind of guy. So the three-legged stool, all three of these parts have to happen in order for it to work. One is improved border security and sanctions for knowingly hiring undocumented immigrants. That's financial and eventually even criminal penalties. That's one leg of the stool. You have to actually make it a crime to hire these people. The second one, you got to have a special agricultural workers program called an H-2A visa, and this is to allow farmers to still be able to hire this source of cheap labor. And the third, you have to have an amnesty and eligibility for citizenship. Those who lived and worked in the U.S. since 82, and those who worked in agriculture for 90 days. So these are now. When I say you need to have these, clearly, if you just had number one, it would work, but it wouldn't be politically feasible. This is a political compromise. You can't have support of agricultural, even grudging support of agricultural interests, unless you offer the agricultural workers program. And people who care about the poor are going to be angry if there's no amnesty. This is an attempt at fairness. You have to grant amnesty and eligibility for citizenship for those who. We're talking about several million people at this point. 2 million, I believe, ultimately take advantage of this amnesty provision. All right. So, all right. I will foreshadow. I'll tell you next time on Wednesday we'll discuss why this didn't actually work, and then we'll go on to the 1990 Act. Okay. So, thank you very much. Midterm. Oh, sorry, forgot to mention. We have midterms and labs to turn back. So.